Hey there, welcome to Halftime Live. Amy Fadool, Ray Didinger in house with you, and we've got one half in the books. Ray, we started out with a bang. It's like people blinked, and all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts had already found the end zone. The run game maybe was a little bit working more than people thought, but what is your initial takeaway when you're looking at this first half?
Well, from an Eagles standpoint, other than the turnover and the scoop and score, it could not have gone better, to be honest with you. You got a 10-point lead.
Mm-hmm.
This may be the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career that he's gone in at halftime and still has not converted a third down.
Oh, wow. Good point.
And so that's highly unusual. And so you've gotten a 10-point lead, and you've also done something that I think was probably part of their thinking, which is trying to keep that Chiefs offense off the field.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles have run, by my count, 45 plays to the Chiefs 19.
Wow.
So really, if other than the fumble that turns into a defensive touchdown, the first half could not have really gone better for the Eagles.
I mean, Jalen Hurts has a lot to prove. Has had a lot to prove this entire season, and he seemingly answered it at every single turn. And then now here on the biggest stage, he's answering it again. I mean, 2 rushing touchdowns, a passing touchdown. He's in rarefied air, and it's halftime. Give me a reason why we shouldn't be like already planning that parade. Calm me down here, Ray, because I feel like everybody's getting ready to burst out of the seams.
They probably are. I understand that. But you're playing against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And you're playing against Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've said all week that the Eagles have the better team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
They do. But when you have 2 players the caliber of Mahomes and Travis Kelce, they can tip the balance. And we've seen this Chiefs team before in situations where you think they're done.
Yeah.
And Mahomes and Kelce do magic. Yeah. So you're by no means home free here. But the great unanswered question is, what's the status of Mahomes' ankle right now?
Yeah, so obviously we saw that big hit. TJ Edwards came through, and it was almost like you couldn't tell which ankle. We know which ankle he had tweaked, but it looked like they actually kind of got wrapped up on both. And then the supreme frustration from Mahomes on the sideline. You saw him with Rick Burkholder, who obviously a lot of people know here in Philadelphia. But he didn't immediately go into the locker room, which I thought was a little bit interesting. It was almost reminiscent of one of the playoff games where he initially hurt that ankle, where he didn't go right away. And given the length of this halftime, which is very lengthy, are you surprised, or does that tell you anything about maybe how his ankle is feeling, that he didn't go right away?
I was a little surprised he didn't go right in.
Yeah.
But it looked to me when he was trotting off at halftime, he looked okay. I mean, his first reaction when he went to the sidelines, it looked like he was in a lot of pain and really frustrated. Now he looked better by the end.
Yeah.
And now Super Bowl halftime is a full half hour. So they'll have a lot of time to rewrap it and do all the things they need to do to get him out.
Crazy stuff, Mr. Miyagi and everything.
Yeah, I do not expect to see Chad Henne at quarterback when they come out of the locker room.
Yeah,
I think you're going to see Patrick Mahomes. And now the question is not is he going to play? The question is he going to be limited at all when he does play? But I think the Eagles are in good shape here. They're executing the offense just about the way they wanted it. They're controlling the football. I think people are probably a little surprised that the Eagles haven't gotten more pressure on Mahomes. That the team with the 70 sacks doesn't have any at this point. But it's really kind of, I think this is kind of what I expected. The Chiefs are getting the ball out of Mahomes' hands so fast that the pass rush doesn't have much of a chance.
Right.
But they have to keep bringing the pressure. The Chiefs aren't going to beat you running the ball. I think in every way the Eagles have maintained control of this half, but for the one turnover. If it wasn't for the one turnover, and that's a really scary thing to do. When you're playing a team like the Chiefs, when you're playing the number 1 offense, you don't want to give them points.
Right.
I mean, they're going to get enough on their own. You don't want to hand them 7, which the Eagles did. But to Hurts' credit, I mean, he came right back on the next series and took you right down the field and you scored. He's pretty unflappable for a young player who's playing in his first Super Bowl. I mean, a play like that could just crush you. And I've seen that happen in this game, but not to him. I mean, he brought the team right back, and here they are holding a 10-point lead.
Yeah, how important was it for him to get obviously right back out there, and then also right before the half at least get some points on the board, because they were driving down, obviously, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, we saw that not ruled a catch, but to at least get 3, I mean, that given the Chiefs have the ball right as soon as the second half starts.
Yeah, that is big because you don't want. That's where the decision to defer really comes into play. If some team has the ball and they get points right before the half, and then they're getting the ball to start the second half, that can be really critical. But you don't have that situation here. Yeah, I mean the Eagles. I was a little surprised they overturned the catch.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure. Yeah, I wasn't sure. They were looking at it for so long. You need visual proof that it needs to be overturned to overturn it. The original call is catch. I don't know that they saw enough to overturn, at least in my eyes. And I think Pereira kind of was indicating the same thing. That to me is one of the. I don't want to get into a big discussion about instant replay here because I mean this is the Super Bowl.
Especially for this, they must have 50 cameras out there.
Yeah, I know. And the Super Bowl, you even have more, which I understand. But sometimes I think, look, I'm all in favor of getting quote unquote the call right. I understand that's the principle behind it. But sometimes a play like that, I mean, he catches the ball. Both feet are in bounds. Yep. He goes out of bounds. He goes down to the ground. Does the tip of the ball hit the ground? I don't know. I mean, there is a time before replay that's an easy catch, and it probably should stand as a catch. Yeah. But when you have instant replay and you can go frame by frame by frame, I think sometimes we're defeating the purpose of instant replay on plays like that. Now, it helps the Chiefs because Eagles probably would have gotten a touchdown out of that drive. So they're still in the game. But sometimes I think instant replay – Sometimes I think it's counterproductive. Let me just leave it at that.
Yeah, because of course, like when everybody saw that, they'll go back to David Tyree and think, well, it's their second helmet catch, and it looked like he pinned it there, and that's possession, and he went to the ground with it. And of course, the argument is, does it survive the ground and whatever else? It's like, well, it looked like a catch, therefore it is a catch. Call it a day and whatever. But it wasn't, and that's fine. And the Eagles scored anyway, so it's a moot point, people. But still, I think it's one of those things. It's just like you hope it doesn't come back to bite you. But early on, it was interesting that the Eagles came out so quick. Do you think that was by design, that they were like, listen, we know this Chiefs team can score. We need to jump on them fast. Like, let's get out. Because that had been a little bit of their MO really the last probably 4 or 5 weeks after that dip in the regular season.
Yeah, well, they've been very good in that first possession. And that's why I honestly, this is just me, but if I had been the Eagles and I had won the toss, I would not have deferred. I would have taken the ball because I want to get out in front of these guys. I want to make them try to catch me. And I just think that the Eagles offense is so much better than the Chiefs defense. I mean, physically, I mean, they kind of own the line of scrimmage against this team. And I really do think with the two wide receivers, Brown and Smith, they can make plays against this young secondary, as you've already seen. So I had full confidence that if the Eagles got the ball first, they were going to take it down and score. And, the way the Eagles are playing this year, if they get up on you, you're going to have trouble. Even a team like the Chiefs is going to have trouble hanging with them. And right now, the Chiefs came back and they scored then, and looked like we were going to have a shootout.
Exactly.
It's 7-7. But I think what you're seeing now is that the Eagles are just better. I mean, and Mahomes is starting to feel some pressure now. The Eagles have done a pretty good job of adjusting to Kelsey. I mean, Kelsey hasn't hurt them now in the last couple of possessions. I think we've seen that their other receivers aren't really going to beat you that much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the little check downs to McKinnon and Pacheco. They'll make some plays and they'll make some first downs. And Kelsey's always a threat if he gets the right matchup. But they don't have nearly as many playmakers as the Eagles do.
No, yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster, non-existent. Obviously, I think some of the other offensive weapons just haven't been there for the Chiefs, which is good because you mentioned their defense, because their defense actually had a little bit more praise than I think people thought coming in, and I think the Eagles have exposed that. Are you surprised at the ratio we're seeing? So fittingly, it seems even when you're looking at passes to runs, and how important is it that to continue in the second half to keep the Chiefs guessing?
Well, I think that that's going to be the plan, and that's what they're going to try to do. The Chiefs, I give Steve Spagnuolo a lot of credit. He's a very good coach. He was here in Philadelphia. He was instrumental, really, in the Giants winning that Super Bowl against the Patriots. I mean, he did a great job coaching against that great Patriot offense with Brady and Moss. He's a very good coach. And over the course of this year, at the beginning of the season, the Chiefs defense was bordering on bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they were giving up a lot of yards, a lot of big plays. I kind of understood it because they were breaking so many new kids in the secondary. I mean, they have a very young secondary. And when they let the Honey Badger go,
Yeah.
I
That was a
think
surprise.
I was a little surprised because I understand the commitment to youth because they needed to get better back there.
Mhm.
But I think a veteran working with those kids would have helped a lot. I
Mhm.
mean, sometimes they have 3-4 rookies running around there at the
Wow.
same time. But over the course of the year, Spagnuolo coached them up. And by the second half of the year, they were playing much, much better defense. But I think you're seeing here that the Eagles offense poses so many challenges, their ability to run the
Yeah.
ball, the quarterback's ability to run the ball out of design plays, and then his pick of receivers to the backs and into the wideouts. They really even haven't used Goddard that much, and they still could. I mean, the Eagles offense it's tough for every team to deal with, but I think you're seeing that the Chiefs are having real problems because their front seven doesn't match up, and they have a lot of inexperience and youth on the back end.
Okay, so there's no reason for anybody to stop celebrating. Ray is saying it's fine. We should celebrate. It's good to go. Is it good to go? I know it's not good to go, but there's a lot of joy right now and optimism. And that's unusual for us in Philadelphia. You know, we're not used to that.
Oh, I know. I've been feeling it for 2 weeks
We
now.
don't know what's happening. We don't know what to do with all this joy. So we're putting it all right here. How does this one end up when you're looking at it? Do they keep this thing rolling?
I think so. I mean, but for 2 weeks now, I've been cautioning people, don't get too optimistic about this. You still have to. There was Hubie Brown, the old basketball coach, once said something in a conversation with me. It was back when the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan were playing and winning championships. And we're talking about a matchup that they had. And Hubie says, whenever I get into one of these series, I always ask one question: who's the best guy in the gym? And that's the team I'm going to pick. In other words, it was Michael Jordan.
Right.
Well, like it or not, the best guy in the gym is Patrick Mahomes. And so you still have to deal with him for another 30 minutes. And I've seen him pull games out before. Even if his ankle is being rewrapped, I'm not going to count him out. But I think the Eagles, if they don't make any more mistakes, if they just don't turn the ball over again, the way they're controlling the clock, the way they're 7 minutes, 8 minutes on a drive, I think that I'm not telling anybody to start climbing the lamp poles yet. There's time enough for that. But I think right now, if you're an Eagles fan, you're probably feeling pretty good.
I would think you're feeling pretty good. What is Jalen Hurts, before we kind of wrap everything up, what does he need to do in the second half? Anything specifically? Because it seems like he's firing on every cylinder and hitting the right notes, aside from that one turnover, which really kind of was caused a little bit more by other stuff that seemed like that was happening too.
Yeah, I think that's just it. Just avoid the big mistake.
Okay.
I mean, it looks to me that if the one drive was stalled by the offensive interference penalty. It got second and 20. If they don't make mistakes, if they don't turn the ball over and they don't get penalties, they'll move it and they'll get first downs and they'll control the ball. And that's really all Hurts has to do. I mean, he can kind of run it whenever he feels like running it. And I think here in the second half, Spagnuolo is probably going to start taking more chances because he kind of has to. He's kind of trying to force the issue. And when the defensive coordinator starts taking chances, he's creating more one-on-ones on the outside, which I think opens the door for some more big plays for Brown and Smith. So if the Eagles just don't make mistakes here, if they don't turn the ball over again, I think they ride home here.
They ride home and grease those poles, baby. Not yet, but grease them so everybody can get ready. All right. Thanks so much for joining us here on Endgame Live. Of course, you can see Ray Didinger coming up on Eagles Postgame Live on NBC Sports Philadelphia. You do not want to miss it. He is the Hall of Famer. He is my favorite person. It is Ray.